TellyCast, the TV industry news review.
Hi, I'm Justin Crosby, and welcome to this week's TellyCast. Before the show starts, just a quick word to let you know we're now taking bookings for a unique new series of bespoke MIPCOM Slate podcasts, specifically designed for content owners and distributors looking to give their full catalogue marketing a new dimension. We'll produce the premium shows for you to create an entertaining and engaging promotional tool that can also include show clips along with producer, talent and distributor interviews. Episodes will feature on all major podcast platforms, plus you can embed the show in your own website and use it as a sales tool alongside your digital marketing assets and mailings. We also have regular show sponsorship packages still available for September. October is now booked up. So, if you're interested in hearing more, email me on justin@boomdialogue.com for the rate card and for more info. You can also find that email address in this week's episode description. So, on to this week's show, and it's a digital special. And my guests are Toby Faulkner, Head of Unscripted for Facebook Watch Originals, and Sam Barcroft, CEO of Barcroft Studios. Peter White from Deadline joins us fresh from a trip to the desert. And K7 Media's digital diviner, Girts Licis, shares some interesting thoughts on who in the TV space might buy TikTok. It's all coming up on this week's TellyCast. So on TellyCast this week, I'm joined by two executives at the cutting edge of digital innovation in the TV space. Toby Faulkner is Head of Unscripted for Facebook Watch Originals. Recent shows Toby has been responsible for include Red Table Talk, 9 Months with Courtney Cox, The Biebers on Watch, and Paris Jackson Unfiltered. Co-productions, video podcasts, and content oversight for product launches also fall under Toby's remit. Formerly a VP of Programming and Development at A&E Networks, he began his career as a journalist with BBC Radio and rose through the ranks at ITV UK before moving to the US 14 years ago as an unscripted showrunner. He's now based in LA. And joining Toby is Sam Barcroft, CEO of Barcroft Studios. Sam started his business in his back bedroom in 2003 with a focus on providing content for news and magazine media. He's since built Barcroft Studios into an award-winning factual production company that specializes in producing amazing real-life content enjoyed and shared by millions of people worldwide. Barcroft Studios makes shows for Netflix, Facebook, Discovery, the BBC, and Snapchat, amongst many others, as well as the company's own channels, which have over 70 million followers across Facebook, YouTube, and Snapchat. Welcome to the show, Toby and Sam.
Hi, Justin. Sam, nice to be with you.
Nice to be with you guys. Thanks for the invite.
Not at all. Thanks for taking some time out of, obviously, your very busy schedules. Toby, you're based in LA and you've been making some unscripted shows for Facebook with some of the world's biggest celebrities, Justin Bieber, Courtney Cox, and the huge event Graduation 2020 with Oprah Winfrey and Miley Cyrus, amongst many others. Can you talk us through the challenges of putting those shows together over the past 6 months or 8 months or so?
Yeah, I think for everyone involved in production, just everyone in life, it's been a really challenging period in human history.
Yeah.
And for work as well, the downstream effect of that for work has definitely, I think, increasingly made people think outside of the box. I think for us on Watch, we have a lot of fast turn series, and we've kind of built that muscle up over the last 3 years. We're coming up to our 3-year anniversary of Watch launching. So it doesn't phase us as perhaps some other broadcasters may have struggled. We were kind of already on Blue Jeans. We were already on Work Chat. We were already kind of moving at quite a speed. So I think that's honestly been sort of the continuing challenge, is moving even faster and turning stuff around even faster. We've had some really big pieces of content drop, as you mentioned. We had the Biebers on Watch with Justin and Hailey, and that was self-shot by them and then edited remotely. But something like that, like we turned the deal around in 3 weeks. And as you can imagine, dealing with big name talent, there's always different layers of lawyers, of business development, of management. And I'm really pleased that I think that's a great example of what you can do when you have to. And yeah, that series I think really connected well with an audience because they got to see a view of the couple that they hadn't seen before. Haley hadn't really opened herself up. We did a live every week, for example, and Haley hadn't really opened herself up like that. So I think that really created some great buzz and great viewing figures for them, for us, and it was a great kind of event series, during the peak of COVID, I think, kind of showing that people are just like us, whether or not they're huge celebrities, they're all struggling to keep themselves amused, to connect with their friends and family. Yeah, and to build that community for their brand, I think as well was great for them.
I think I saw the Beavers on Watch had about 80 something million followers on the show. How many episodes were there? Did it grow over time? Can you give us a little bit sense of how the audiences came to such a show?
Honestly, I'd have to look. I haven't looked recently because that finished a couple of months ago. We did a mixture of VOD and live. So we always did a live with them every week. The lives, when they did the morning time, LA time, Pacific time, that was always best because their audience is so global that they were able to catch the majority of people awake. The later anyone does something on the West Coast, then you risk more and more people kind of being bed in UEA or in Iran or in the UK or wherever the fans are. And I think that goes back again to what's so fun about what we do at Watch is that we are a global platform. And when something drops, it drops at the same time around the world, wherever there's Facebook. I think everyone, whether or not they're a celebrity or a real person, is looking for connection during these crazy COVID times. And I think Facebook's uniquely positioned to, help grow those communities, help you find your tribe, have meaningful conversations. Unlike other platforms, like you're yourself on Facebook, right? You're not Troll69, you are the self. And I think as humans, everyone's looking for their tribe. They're looking for meaningful conversation and meaningful connection. So whether or not you're sharing a story about your difficult pregnancy or you're supporting someone that's gone through something really difficult on Red Table Talk, I think that's really appreciated, and people appreciate that human feedback.
Yeah, and it's been very much about communities coming together using technology to do that more than ever before, hasn't it? Looking at the wider TV space, we've seen AVOD and SVOD seeing a real boost in subscribers, real significant boost for a lot of the new services that have launched. Have you seen a similar increase in consumption on Watch?
Every streamer, every content provider has seen a huge boost just because people have so much more time on their hands. They're not necessarily having to jump in a car and doing a really long commute. I know in my own household, we're on Portal having video calls on Messenger. We're spending more time watching content on streamers to amuse our child, to amuse ourselves, to look for an escape. I've been really impressed across the board with us, and other platforms as well, of really rising to that challenge and really listening to the audience and providing what the audience is looking for, delivering what they're craving. I think for us, creating the COVID unit or the racial equality unit to keep people up to date with the latest news on those topics. People were hungry to know what's kind of going on outside of their four walls, and having that flexibility to be nimble and to, provide a service really quickly. I'm really proud of the whole sort of engineering and product team that have kind of met that need for Facebook and for Watch.
The whole aspect of building communities around content was really pivotal when Watch launched about 3 years ago. What have you learned and what's changed in the services since then? What have you learned and adapted to over the last 3 years?
You're absolutely right. We've definitely evolved. And I think that's one thing working at a technology company or a social company, you're always evolving. One of the pieces of advice that someone gave me when I first started here was you just have to get used to nothing ever being the same, and change is part of the culture. And, I've really embraced that. And I think all of us do. So that notion of pivoting and, listening to the audience. We had a shift towards more unscripted programming because that's what our audience wanted to engage with the most, sharing comments, feeling like they were having a one-to-one connection with our talent. So community, I think, has actually become increasingly important since we started, because that is the core remit of sort of the Facebook business, is building those communities, is building that interactivity and creating those connections. For example, with groups, that's something that I've seen a huge rise with since we started on Watch, like the Red Table Talk group, the 9 months with Courtney Cox group. People are sharing their stories, often for the first time, really intimate and personal stories. And the support in those groups is amazing. Like 9 months, to comment on 9 months, make me well up every single week. We just wrapped season 2. And I think there's something really powerful to providing, a safe space where people can feel like they can come together and have difficult conversations, honest conversation. Authenticity is a word that, everyone uses these days. But I think when that connection is so one-to-one on social, I always look at Jada on Red Table Talk, and for me, like, she's like that best friend or that older sister that maybe some people don't have in their lives, and they really value her POV. She's such a strong anchor, and she really speaks to the heart and with authority. And I think what we've been able to do with our shows increasingly is really meet that need. We have a couple of series coming out, they'll be announced in the next couple of weeks, that are very much rooted in big, broad social or emotional issues. And I think that emotional connection is just definitely something that's evolved since we first started. We've moved away from more of the shiny floor shows. We don't do those kind of competition shows where it's more of a passive experience. We're all about how can we have an engaging experience with you while you're watching. So, and I think that the amazing thing about Facebook Watch is that you can be watching a piece of content and interacting with it at the same time. And I think that is something that I think is increasingly important. And everyone else is trying to build communities on social, but we are actually social and have the content there. So I think that's a big differentiator for us.
Yeah, I mean, speaking for myself, I know that probably this last few months has been the first time that I've actually been interacting with my friends while I've been watching a screen, whether it's a football or whatever. Before I just didn't tend to do that. But I think this shared experience, that the need to feel connected remotely while you're enjoying a common experience is certainly something that I've experienced for the first time and really enjoyed. Actually, be interesting to see if those behavioral changes will keep on and stay for good. Do you commission shows? Because I think there's always a little bit of a misunderstanding about, does Facebook commission like a regular broadcaster or platform, or is it more about partnership? How does it work?
Facebook is definitely a huge organization. I think we're somewhere between like 40,000, 50,000 people around the world right now. So there are definitely lots of different departments working around content. We have a huge partnerships team, whether or not that's sports partnerships, news partnerships, entertainment partnerships. And there are special partnership managers that work directly with talent, whether or not that's a host or a sports star or an actor. We on the Watch original side are fully funding original unscripted content and kind of leaning a little bit more premium in terms of what that content is. There are different programs available to our publishing partners, whether or not you're a Barcroft media or whether or not you are a BuzzFeed. But we tend to work directly with pieces of talent or production companies that have those relationships and work with them to develop, again, that sort of emotionally sticky content with the celebrity at the top of the funnel because they have an existing platform. And what we're trying to do is elevate that conversation. Maybe there's a passion project, something they're really excited about that they want to share a message around. I think we've seen great success if you have those strong anchors because they open up taboo conversations, they open up difficult conversations, and we provide a forum for those. And I think, to going back to what you were saying before, I think the notion of this feedback loop is really important. Rather than just like watching something, you might have an opinion and it just goes off into the ether. Here, you can actually be part of the content that we're producing, whether or not that's 9 months, again, is like mostly self-shot, or if you look at the group for Returning the Favor, people are watching the show and then suggesting honorees in the group that then the production company then use to help cast the people they're going to highlight in the show. So again, it's a lot of positivity and hopefulness. I think that's a big thread for what we're doing at Watch as well on the original side. So when content comes into us, it does tend to come in through our relationships. We're a small team based out of LA. We don't have any regional hubs for fully funded original content at the moment. But our focus is often on those global pieces of talent, and oftentimes they have representation here in LA as well. So it seems to be working so far.
We talked about innovation, 360 video, polling, live chats, interactive content, for example. I mean, is that still very much part of, what you're looking to create around a project with a big celebrity? Are you looking to utilize as many of the tools that Facebook Watch has at its disposal for every particular show?
I think it always depends on the content. I think something that we're really good at is working with producers to work out what is the best version of their show on Facebook to reach the audience. So oftentimes we might commission, like I think 9 months came in and it was a half-hour show or an hour show. And then upon talking about it and realizing that we had like these 14 couples, we realized that was going to be too much to sit through on social. So we broke that down into 2 drops a week. Sometimes we have 3 drops a week. So we're always working out what's the best way to connect to the audience. Sometimes that does involve polling or interactivity. With one of Sam's shows, Most Incredible Homes, we did 360 and we did polling. And that's another way to get people involved in the content. I'd say since COVID, live is having a bit of a resurgence. We noticed that churches were live streaming their sermons to congregations. And that has led to a big push around live and a big usage around live. I think the live is up a ton. So that's really exciting to see, I think, is that people, again, we're a product-led company, but we're a product-led company that do listen to the audience and the community. And I think they often dictate where the innovation comes from and what they're looking for and how we can adapt. Going back to the COVID and racial equality units on Watch, they were turned around in a matter of days. And so that's the first thing when you come into Watch, you're able to click in and get the latest news and information around those topics. Yeah, live is something that we're doing a lot around now. But I think increasingly, we talked a little bit before about evolution and really finding our sweet spot around sort of emotional connectivity, around big, broad issues. I think that's where we've settled right now. And then we use those other elements of interaction as they're needed. And I think the groups have evolved into being a great source of resource and information and a place where you can have those conversations separate from the show, but then can still feed into the show as well.
From your perspective, how do you think the content business will develop over the next 6 months? It's a massive question, I realise, but what's your best guess on the changes that we'll see?
I think everyone needs content. Everyone is hungry for content. So I don't think the machine will stop, and I don't think people will stop creating. With any problem, people always work out solutions. And I think from talking to my friends at production companies or my friends at other networks, everyone's just working out new workflows to deliver what they may have delivered before, but in a different way, or using a different process. So I think innovation is just going to become the new normal. I'm interested to see how the ad sales market settles down. I think for me, that's a big question mark. But increasingly, if you have connection to talent or there are stories to be told, people are still hungry for that connection, for that entertainment. So I think while it's going to be a turbulent 6 months, I do think huge volume of content is going to be created.
Sam, coming to you, thanks for coming on the show. Full disclosure, I've handled your PR for the last 6 years, and it's been incredible to see how your business has changed from journalism-led content and newswire business, originally serving the publishing industry, to a business that has really developed to lead innovation in the digital realm within the TV business.
Indeed.
What a journey it's been. What lessons do you take from that?
Lesson number one, always hire a fantastic PR.
That's the right answer. Thank you, Sam. Right.
That one will stay in. That one will stay in.
This interview is over, yeah.
Well, lesson number two, I suppose, is, one I learned from my daughter, Rosie, who's just passed her driving test this week, which was big in our house. But when she was tiny, she was a massive fan of Finding Nemo. And like many young toddlers, just was happy to watch it again and again and again on her little DVD player. And it was really the line from Dory, which is just keep swimming. Over the kind of 18 years plus I've been running my company, we've really great line from Toby, which is innovation is the new normal. Well, I think we discovered that about 10 years ago when the sands really started to shift in publishing. And that business had a real disruption from digital. We've kind of been having to adapt and change for a decade or more. And that's become normal in our business and something that we were very nervous of initially, but now have come to really enjoy in a perverse kind of way. So I think the trick is three things, especially relevant right now in a time of great disruption and change. Number one really is just to really be honest with yourself about the challenges and face up to them. Don't try and sweep them under the carpet, get them out on the table and deal with them as positively as you can. I think the second one is really to embrace the opportunities and to really go for it, because most people won't, especially in a business like television that's had traditionally so much opportunity and so much money to be made. People love to stay how they are. People are resistant to change. So if you're brave enough to activate change and really go for it, you're likely to find yourself in quite a good position quite often, because everybody else is left in the pack and you're kind of out of the peloton, as it were. So, and I think thirdly, just the key really is fortune favors the brave. You do have to be brave if you decide to take on your challenges, face up to them, and to take on new opportunities. But if you can manage to do that, you won't have much sleep and you might be pretty exhausted quite a lot of the time. You're probably going to end up in a much better place. And if you run a business or an organization and you're a leader, you will have done a great service, not just for yourself, but for the community of people that you work with at the same time.
Yeah, well, that now more than ever, I think is the time to be brave, isn't it? And you've actually come full circle in a sense by recently launching your own scheduled OTT TV channel, Truly. Can you tell us about that?
It's quite funny, isn't it? Like, I spent the last 10 years plus kind of launching on-demand social video. Who thought the best idea in on-demand right now would be to lean into channels, scheduled channels?
Yeah.
But it has been quite an exciting journey for us, really, with the disruption that's happening at the moment and the way that really television is turning into an SVOD and AVOD world, either subscribers or advertising-based video on demand or streamers. The truth is for us that part of that that's growing rapidly is the connected TV advertising revenues. Therefore, services like Pluto and Zumo and Fubo are now kind of coming in with TV-esque viewing experiences that are really interesting to advertisers and work really well on connected televisions. And the format is exactly like you'd expect on a Freeview style box. We've created a lot of our own original content that's very popular on social media and on television over the last decade, which gives us a fantastic starting point for launching a channel. And so recently we've done a lot of work with our friends at Pluto in London and also with Stir in LA, and have launched Truly, which is our female skewing Fact 10 brand, as a 24/7 scheduled channel across both those services. And it's really exciting. It's quite a privilege to be able to program a scheduled channel, to fill it up with lots of really warm, fun, emotive shows. Yeah, it was a big moment for us, and we're really excited to see how that world grows alongside the other more established digital and linear services.
Production is opening up again. Obviously, there've been 7 months pause on TV production for, I think, most businesses. How have you coped?
Do you know, it's not been our easiest time. It's been personally incredibly challenging for lots of our team, or for lots of people all over the world. It's a historic event that we've been living through. Our priority has been looking after our people, number one. I've spent a lot of time making sure they're all okay. I think we've had such a great response from our team, who have learned over the last few years, to Toby's point, that if you're a business that lives and breathes social media and production for dynamic clients, we're very used to producing remotely. So actually in February, we'd already done A/B team testing and had sent teams to work remotely to make sure we had a backup plan. And actually our CEO at Future sent us all out quite a while before the government asked us to. And so for Truly and our other digital in-house shows that we wholly own that are published on social, we've actually produced more than 100 original episodes in lockdown.
Wow.
Over the last 7 months. And we've actually had some of our most successful months ever during lockdown in digital, despite the massive challenges logistically, editorially, and everything else of working around all the challenges. And in fact, our biggest episode of the year was the very first fully self-shot, fully remotely edited episode that we did about a wonderful woman who'd lost all her limbs from meningitis, but had come back and created an incredible life for herself. To Toby's point, again, really emotive storytelling that resonates hugely with people across social media. And that was a film where we literally had kit FedExed to the contributor's home and then produced, directed and edited it all via FaceTime and in people's spare rooms and flat shares and everything else. And that got nearing 100 million views so far, that one episode. So I think it's been very tough in traditional television. We are back in production on some major shows for cable networks, which is super exciting, but very challenging on a logistical level right now. But I think this has been a brilliant example, especially in the USA, of how networks and producers and talent and crew can work amazingly well and overcome incredibly challenging circumstances to still deliver amazing work. And so I've just been super humbled actually by our network execs, by our teams, by our contributors who have all stuck two fingers up at this massive horrible thing that we're all going through and have decided to do their best work anyway. And I'm grateful, massively grateful for all of that work. And I think hopefully we've seen the back of this for the meantime. We've all learned a lot from it, and hopefully we can carry on making great content.
Yeah, fingers crossed. You were acquired by Future PLC at the end of last year, and you mentioned Future a little while ago. Can you give us some examples of how you're working together in the new environment?
It's been a real intense last 8-9 months or so since we partnered up with Future. Super exciting for our teams to be part of a really big, very successful PLC. Really, the opportunity there is huge for our teams because at Future, we own a huge amount of world famous digital brands, everything from T3 and Tom's Guide all the way across to Marie Claire and Wallpaper. Now we're colleagues with thousands of people who are superhuman experts in everything from guitar playing to interior design to lifestyle and wellness. And so as kind of people who are addicted to premium video production and distribution, we're really getting stuck in with our colleagues to see how we can bring some of those amazing brands and stories to life across video and TV. One of the first things we got stuck into, which is already out and publishing, was a show called Totally Game. Future was founded by Chris Anderson, who started TED Talks, and Chris's passion was computers and technology. And so PC Gamer is one of their big titles, as is Games Radar. Future has some of the most successful gaming digital titles in the world. So we decided to put together with the gaming teams a new documentary show about some of the world's most remarkable gamers. That's been fantastic because we're working with some of the leading producers and journalists in gaming to kind of tell remarkable stories. And we've been making it during lockdown across America and had some amazing stories that have done really, really well. The show's already had, more than 10 million viewers across Snapchat, Facebook, YouTube, and just is a really pleasurable thing to kind of do an Avengers assemble of experts in gaming with experts in video and experts in distribution, and really create brand new big brands that then have the backup of a huge network of different pages. So on Facebook, we haven't just got the Barcroft pages like Hooked on the Look and Born Different that do so well, but we've also got PC gamers audience that we can cross-post these videos on. We've also got T3 whose audience are really interested in remarkable gaming, so we get this amazing network effect, a bit like a Discovery Networks, who can play some of their shows on multiple channels in multiple places, which has a huge network effect, which is very exciting and creates a brilliant template for what we can do across multiple verticals over the next few years. So it's been fascinating and really exciting to see where it's going to go next.
You mentioned Snapchat. You've been working with Snapchat recently on other fascinating projects. Talk us through those.
Snap's been a really interesting journey for us. Obviously, what's unique about Snapchat is all the video is vertical. That's less unique now because it's been seen to be quite successful. And so now we share vertical videos across Facebook and YouTube and elsewhere as well. But this year, we've worked especially hard with Snap on some originals that have been really interesting, especially last year, we worked up a really important idea called Mind Yourself, which was a show all about mental health and the challenges that young people face around mental health. And we made a 10-part documentary series for Snap Originals all about young people who'd gone through very challenging moments with their mental health and who'd kind of got through those moments really well and who'd come out the other side. And that was just a very important show to be a part of, and I'm really glad that Snapchat spent their money on an important issues-based show like that. I was really proud that Evan Spiegel, the founder of Snap, heroed the show at the recent Snap Partner Summit as something that they were really proud of as an organization. It's such a big subject. I saw today that in the UK, depression has doubled since COVID. I'm very proud of the team and the stories they told in a very sensitive and thoughtful way. And then when COVID actually hit, we were talking with the team and at Snap Originals, and we figured out a show called Frontline Heroes together, which was to highlight the incredible work being done by ordinary people across America at a real crisis point of COVID. My job doesn't mean anything at a time of COVID compared to that of an ICU nurse or a porter in a hospital or epidemiologist helping figure out how we sort this out. What that show was about was the people that we always forget about, the laundry workers cleaning the clothes of the people in those hospitals. The community members in the Navajo tribes who are helping to get fresh water to families to help them be able to wash their hands, which is a real problem in those communities in America. People don't even have running water. So it's been fantastic to work with a progressive platform like Snapchat, who are determined to help really showcase some of these issues that we've got at the moment. And I was really proud that Frontline Heroes was turned around so quickly at the beginning of the pandemic, and again was made completely remotely, with all the episodes shot by the contributors, being directed by and produced by our teams 24/7 via FaceTime and WhatsApp and all those other brilliant tools. It's been really great to collaborate with the teams there at Snap. We're all learning a great deal through these momentous moments.
We'll post links in the episode description to the shows that Toby mentioned and the shows that Sam's just mentioned as well, so you can check them out yourselves. On to your stories of the week. Toby, your story of the week concerns TikTok talent. Talk us through that.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that it's almost like during COVID, Hollywood's woken up to Gen Z talent, and specifically around the phenomenon that is TikTok. You see talent agencies who represent the people in the houses partner up under these talent agencies, and then the actual sort of more traditional agencies, the ICMs, your WMEs, your CEA, then work with them to do the deals, to package those out, because they see the benefit of, the endorsement deals, and they see the benefit of like grabbing this audience now and then helping them grow, whether or not that's too traditional linear, if that is with merchandising. that is one of the positive things that's come out of COVID, is perhaps more traditional media or traditional ways of thinking, realizing that there is a huge amount of value in people that already have their own fan bases and people that are already able to film themselves, edit themselves, and then post themselves. And I think there was always a little bit of snobbery beforehand, but seeing the numbers of those TikTok stars and really seeing how that opportunity, really looking at it as an opportunity. Yeah, so I think that's probably, for me, the story of the week, or the story of the last couple of months is Hollywood, waking up to the power of Gen Z talent.
Yeah, and I guess a good example is Sarah Cooper, who's become an overnight success. Actually, I was reading about her earlier on. She's an ex-Google executive, I think, and quit to become focus on her making short comedy clips. She's been doing these impressions or miming along to Donald Trump speeches, and she's been propelled to international stardom. Now just signed a deal with Netflix, I believe.
Yeah, she has a Netflix special, I think. And I'm sure that would be great for any of those comedy pieces of talent on TikTok right now. So I think they could have their own special or their own lifestyle brand, whether or not they're in a house like Sway House or Hype House, Sweet High House. There are many, but that notion, for me, it feels like a reinvention of the hills or a reinvention of the real world, but it feels like something that's very much rooted in where we are in 2020. So for me, I think that's really exciting to see the notion of evolution around old content tropes or reinvention, I think is really interesting.
Interesting. Sam, your story of the week concerns a recent guest on TellyCast, Dan Snow. Talk us through that.
I was really excited from a kind of business and strategy perspective to hear that Dan had sold History Hit TV, his History SVOD, to Little Dot Studios, part of All3 Media, which is owned by Discovery and Liberty Global. I think it's just a gangster move from Selma and Andy, the founders of Little Dot. Little Dot have been in the UK TV industry one of the best kept secrets or success stories really of the last few years, because people just assumed they were the kind of digital services arm of this brilliant big TV distributor, All3 Media, which was correct. But, Andy and Selma have figured out not only how to become one of the most profitable parts of that huge distributor for all the hard work they do, looking after lots of broadcasters and shows and talents, YouTube channels really well for them and optimizing them so excellently. But they figured out how to really become a broadcaster in their own right by actually giving All3 Media and lots of other content owners brilliant ways of reaching new audiences and new revenues via sharing their shows across social media. The thing about History Hit is Dan Snow and his colleagues have built out a real environment for history lovers around podcasts and around TV shows. And what they really need now is a company like Little Dot who know how to supersize audiences and how to monetize them really well. But the real clever thing about this is if you're a digital studio right now, you need multiple revenue streams. You can't just make money from being commissioned alone. You can't just make money from advertising alone. You need things that tick all the boxes. And part of this deal, according to the press, is that Dan Snow will also create and star in TV projects with Little Dot as well. So whilst the BBC, Channel 4, ITV and others stop making so much history content because they're really restricted budget-wise and very much focused on core, big, broad audience special shows, really Andy's stepped in at Little Dot and won the whole history TV sector in the UK and got himself direct SVOD audiences who are all paying £6 a month already, plus already built out his own big history channels across YouTube. And now they're claiming that Little Dot have got the largest history audience across digital platforms globally. And now they've got probably the UK's most recognised historian as well, and can monetize it in lots of different ways.
Very shrewd move, I think, going back a few years for All3 to invest in Little Dot in the first place. Fantastic story. So now it's that time in the show where every week my guests get to nominate their hero of the week, and they get to tell me who or what they want to throw in the bin. So, Sam, Who's your hero of the week?
Justin, my hero of the week is the co-founder of Netflix, Reed Hastings. And the reason he's my hero of the week is because of the action he's taken around COVID and around Black Lives Matter. There's a lot of people who have talked the talk over the last few months in terms of supporting communities that have been devastated by illness or by persecution and poverty. And I've just been incredibly impressed how Reed Hastings and his family have just been determined to actually do something and walk the walk. So Reed and his wife, Patty, have already donated $120 million of their own money to the United Negro College Fund, Spelman College and Morehouse College. That's the largest ever individual gift to support scholarships at historically black colleges and universities in the US. And also Netflix as an organization has put its money where its mouth is. It's already created a $100 million fund to invest in Black Lives Matter communities. And in terms of COVID, it's created a $100 million fund to help support producers that are put under pressure by COVID. It's put money into theatre funds in the UK. It's put money into the BFI's fund in the UK. I know that Facebook have also done a lot of work on helping those communities as well, often in a platform way. But I just think, well played, Reed. He didn't have to go into his own pocket for any of this, but he has done. And he's leading one of the big companies that have done incredibly well out of the challenging disruption of television. So this week, he's my hero.
Okay. And Toby, how about you? Who's your hero of the week?
For me, my hero of the week is Viola Davis. She gave herself a present for her 55th birthday. She bought her childhood home where she was born, where her uncles and aunts grew up, in a place that had been inhabited by slaves in the past. And for me, I love the way that she put that narrative together and how she kind of really took ownership of something that some people might have looked at as negative. And she really saw the positive about taking ownership about an aspect of her past. And I find that really inspiring in my own personal life. And I think she's just a great all-round human. And I love what she's using her voice for, in addition to being a great actress. Yeah, so Viola Davis for me.
All right, here. And Sam, how about you? Who or what are you going to throw in the bin?
Justin, I'm not a big bin guy. I like to focus on the positives. But if I had to throw anybody in the bin, it would be one of the star soccer players of my team, Arsenal Football Club in London. Mesut Ozil may have been the world's best playmaker for many years, but at the moment he's blocking up our path to greatness again by refusing to budge from his 350 grand a week pay packet for sitting around at home watching everybody else do all the hard work. There's so much talent, young talent at Arsenal Football Club. We could really do with him jumping off his perch and going off to play somewhere else. And he wouldn't even take a pay cut during COVID. I feel like it's time for him to get in the bin so we can crack on with being London's finest football club again.
Right. And this coincided with Arsenal making, was it over 50 redundancies as well at the same time?
I think it's a very sad state of affairs when we are having to make lots of very hardworking backroom staff redundant at the same time as still having to pay our big talented football players a great deal of money every week, and who won't, especially when they won't take a voluntary pay cut, as many of us have done in the rest of the real world.
Here. Well, that's a good one that I can get on board with. Toby, who or what are you throwing in the bin?
For me, I'm mourning a loss. I'm mourning the loss of those 2 minutes in and out of meetings that we would have had when we were in person. I feel like so much gets done. I'm waiting for someone to post a chart on LinkedIn about the cost to the economy of losing those 2 minutes of conversation now that we're all on Zoom calls and working remotely. But I really miss those moments when something pops into your head and you're able to walk over to someone's desk, or, for example, when you have a pitch, when you walk out and when you're with a team and you can discuss it and you're very much in the moment. Everything now is so scheduled, and I think a lot of creativity is lost in those moments when you're really in the moment. I should explain that a little bit better, but that loss of creativity by not having those 2 minutes wherein you're in the same headspace as one another, it's much more difficult, I think, to create that over video conference. So for me, yes, I'm wanting those 2 minutes at the end of each meeting where you get to decompress and share your thoughts.
Fantastic. Well, Sam and Toby, thank you so much for joining us this week. Been a fantastic show. Really enjoyed chatting with you both and hearing about your businesses. Best of luck with everything, and hope to see you in person very soon.
Thanks so much, Justin.
Thank you, Justin. Have a good one.
So once again, it's that time in the show where we go over to LA and speak to Peter White from Deadline Hollywood. Hi, Peter. How are you today?
Hey, Justin. I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. I hear you've been dusting off the sand. You've been in the desert.
Yeah, I went and spent the weekend out near Joshua Tree, proper middle of nowhere vibes, which was a lot of fun. See a bit crazy wildlife and some dirt paths. So out near Landers, sort of a couple hours outside of LA.
Let's talk about the executives. We were talking last week about executive bloodletting being going on in Hollywood, and there's a bit of a bombshell that has just landed prior to us recording the show about one of the very senior NBC Universal execs. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is Ron Meyer, who is the vice chairman of NBC Universal, extremely well-known and well-liked executive out in LA, one of the co-founders of CAA. He's leaving the company after 25 years. It turns out he was at the center of an extortion plot. As you say, this has just broken Tuesday morning. He's put out a statement. It's a bit of a bombshell, not something that you normally see. It sounds like something out of one of his movies. He's saying that he made a settlement under threat with a woman who'd made what he said were false accusations, admitting having a brief and consensual affair. But because of the disclosure, others had learnt of said settlement and attempted to extort him, saying that they would implicate NBC Universal. So yeah, a bit of a strange one, and as you say, comes after a number of execs left last week. Obviously not related. Sounds a little bit similar. I don't know if you remember the case of John Skipper, who was the boss of ESPN, who similarly left under an extortion scheme. His was a cocaine extortion plot. So yeah, this seems like it's happening in Hollywood more than I can ever remember before. So yeah, a bit of a strange one. I have a feeling a few more details might come out on this one over the days, weeks, and months.
Yeah, and as you say, he's a bit of a legend, isn't he? A bit of a legend in Hollywood. He was one of the co-founders of CAA.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm sure this will be something that's spoken about quite a lot. Zoom calls over the next few days.
Also, when it comes to other news in town, what have you seen develop over the last week or so?
Yeah, well, we're going back into production, I guess. You and I have talked about this largely on the non-scripted side, I guess, over the last few weeks and months. Los Angeles County got a bit of good news last sort of 48 hours. It looks like we're improving our COVID numbers for the first time in a while, which will probably give producers a bit of confidence. And we've seen some of the first big scripted series going back into production, which is good, given that the full schedules are packed with scripted shows. ABC comedy The Conners, which, as you'll know, is the Roseanne spin-off, is now back in production. That started this week. Multi-camera, shot with a minimal crew, no studio audience. It's thought that's the sort of first broadcast comedy series to resume production. Produced by Liverpool owner Tom Werner's Werner Entertainment. So interesting to see how that goes. Apple is back in space with For All Mankind, which is their Ron Moore drama. They had 2 episodes left to shoot from season 2 when back in March it was shut down. So they're going to start those last 2 remaining episodes out on the Sony lot in Culver City this week. Again, NCIS and NCIS Los Angeles are coming back at the start of September 3rd for NCIS LA and September 9th for the main show. And they both film in LA as well. So yeah, that's where we're at now. We're sort of starting to see some of these scripted shows. I know in the UK and some other parts of the world that things have started to get moving. So it's good news that that started over here on top of all of the non-scripted side of things.
Well, I'm delighted to hear that For All Mankind has started production again. I'm midway through season 1 at the moment, although I still imagine it's quite a while until we'll get to see the second season. But good to know that it's actually moving on and it will be finished. So,
Yeah.
Peter, as always, thank you, and we'll speak to you soon. Take care.
Good to meet you as always, Justin.
So now it's that part of the show where we go over to Riga again to speak to Girts Licis, our digital diviner. How are you, Girts?
I'm very well, thank you, Justin. How about you?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm hoping to get a holiday, but you know what? I'm not going to get one. It's just not going to happen. So
maybe in a short form.
Exactly, that's it. It's going to be a long weekend. I think that's about it. I'm not playing the quarantine game. I'm staying put. You're going to be away next week.
I'll be away next week, hopefully. Yes, I was supposed to go to Denmark and Norway. I can't tell you right now whether it will be both countries or one of them next week. So I will probably save this story for when we meet again in 2 weeks. But I'm sure you will have someone covering me. Which is also going to be quite interesting, I think.
We have got somebody lined up who's an extra special guest. Obviously, he can't replace you, Girts. We'll be able to reveal a little bit more in a few days' time. This week, Girts, we're talking about digital and short form and really this evolving side of the business, which is accelerated massively. Let's talk about digital.
I guess that the hottest real-life docudrama currently unfolding around the short-form streaming is the tug of war between TikTok and Donald Trump, isn't it? I assume there is no need to remind that the US president is determined to ban the app in the States unless the US arm changes the ownership until mid-September, which basically means that if TikTok's Chinese owner, ByteDance, is not able to agree the sale of its US operations to a US company, likely to be Microsoft, and along with US, such deal could also include Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, the app's operations in US would be seized as soon as from 21st of September, I think. However, as unlikely as it sounds, I really like the idea that Netflix could be an alternative contender.
Netflix?
Yes, Reed Hastings once said his company's biggest competition is sleep. But more recently, jokes aside, he focused in on two threats, not other streamers. These are video games and self-made short-form videos. And Hastings calls them substitution threats, things that could become highly more relevant to people than watching movies and TV shows. At some point, Hastings has even used an allegory with opera as a genre. Imagine how widespread this form of art must have been, say, 100 years ago, before there was television or popular music or other forms of alternative pastimes, and how relatively niche it has become now. And by the way, remember what I was saying a few weeks ago in this broadcast, that our industry in general is perhaps too much betting on high-end drama and other big-budget long forms in the long term, pretending not noticing that there are other things increasingly attracting the younger viewers, especially. Anyway, in the letter to shareholders tied to the second quarter's earnings report, Netflix acknowledged that Disney, Warner Media, and NBC Universal are among its main global competitors, but it was only TikTok which they praised, saying that TikTok's growth had been astounding, showing the fluidity of internet entertainment. So Netflix has identified TikTok as a potential existential threat to its company's subscription service success. ByteDance is projecting $1 billion this year and as much as $6 billion next year in revenue. So Netflix here has a unique opportunity to buy a high-growth advertising business to complement its global video service without cannibalizing either one of them. Netflix also has international aspirations, and while it would be limited to a few countries for now, such acquisition would help to kind of put the foot in the door looking in the future. And financially, Netflix could afford it. And also its culture and leadership may be even a better fit for TikTok than Microsoft. But whatever the outcome is going to be, it's obvious that the competition is very hopeful to use the momentum. And I mean, the Instagram's Reels recently launched add-on which mimics TikTok's key features and thus makes it the most significant direct competitor to TikTok to date. The thing is, TikTok has helped launch the careers of a new wave of stars, but while it might have been fundamental to their origins, these creators are not tied exclusively to the platform, and this might turn into a problem. It's become second nature for creators in general to have a presence or at least experiment on other apps. However, despite their fluidity between platforms, longer form uploads may be an awkward fit for many of the app's brightest stars, making services like YouTube and Facebook Watch less appealing. So we can expect Instagram and its addition to be probably the most likely alternative.
So are you saying that TikTok is in a kind of like a double trouble, even if the deal with the US company is signed?
If the deal with a potential buyer is reached, I think that TikTok will continue to fly, thanks to its continued momentum and already established presence in the US. But also its recent creators funding initiative is going to play a big part in retaining of the existing users, as well as in attracting new ones. For those who don't know, TikTok recently committed, I think, $2 million pot to partnered creators in the US, which is set to rise even to $1 billion in the next 3 years, and more than $2 billion globally. It's unknown how much individual stars will receive exactly, but this pot will be accessible for creators aged 18 plus with over 10,000 followers. This will be the first time TikTok's creators will get paid directly, since until now its stars have relied on brand partnerships to make money from their uploads. And if this isn't enough to retain its stars, I wouldn't be surprised to see exclusivity deals come into play comparable to what we've been seeing with the gaming creators in the live streaming space and with talent in the broader context of TV and streaming platforms. And by the way, speaking of TikTok and the other potential alternatives to TV watching in the future, Idol creator Simon Fuller has partnered with TikTok to embark on a search for music's next supergroup. An in-app audition process has been announced already, and according to Fuller, this will be the most connected pop group ever, thriving on every platform and sharing their talent and positive energy with the world.
That's a smart move. Simon Fuller obviously knows what he's doing there.
This is definitely a broader trend of inspiration and ideas for new shows sparking from literally every resource these days. It's no more just books, novels that provide a source. It's video games, apps, podcasts, or just a viral clip at times. Will Smith Westbrook Studios and Universal TV are currently developing a reboot of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the classic sitcom which launched the Will Smith's Hollywood career. However, this show is going to be reimagined as a gritty drama inspired by a fan-made trailer on YouTube, which went viral last year. The trailer's creator, Morgan Cooper, is working on the show together with Will Smith, who praised the idea in a viral response video. Netflix, HBO Max, Peacock, they are all reportedly bidding for this series. HBO Max has announced an episode series, A World of Calm, based on and co-produced with the wellness app Calm. In this series, celebrities will narrate relaxing tales accompanied by mesmerizing imagery based on Calm sleep stories. Amazon Prime is working on a series adaptation from a video game franchise, Fallout. This post-apocalyptic series is set in the aftermath of a nuclear war in 2077, where the desolation of war is set against the backdrop of the idealized 1950s version of a future utopia. Many game adaptations have failed when trying to recreate the stories for a different medium, but in this case, the story is written specifically for the screen rather than the gamepad, thus giving Amazon ample opportunity to tell an interesting story within the established world and tone of Fallout. And there is also an interesting development of Netflix. I guess we are used to spin-offs, sequels, and other mutations of popular shows, but prequels is not something we are seeing too often so far. And Netflix is expanding its The Witcher fantasy universe with a miniseries prequel. And this new six-parter, The Witcher Blood Origin, will be set 1,200 years before the main show, following the very first Witcher, a line of wandering monster slayers for hire. This series will also show how the worlds of men, elves, and monsters originally merged to create the franchise's fantastical world. And then, of course, there is the never-ending race for exclusive deals with talent. Some of the most recent ones include Netflix signing up with Black Mirror creators Charlie Brooker and Annabelle Jones' new company Broken Bones. This reportedly $100 million deal will cover a range of series with the option for the streamer to purchase full ownership of the company. Apple has announced a first look pact with Idris Elba and his Green Door Pictures company, as well as a deal with Leonardo DiCaprio's Appian Way Productions. And actress Priyanka Chopra Jones has signed a multi-million-dollar 2-year first-look deal to create English and Hindi language original series with Amazon Studios. Perhaps here we are seeing a new trend emerging for bilingual or multilingual talent to be locked to cover all the possible corners. And finally, Hulu has struck a first-look deal with actress Joy King, who is just 21, to produce original series to the streamer, making her the youngest ever talent to sign with a streaming platform to date.
Well, it's fascinating stuff. And we were hearing from Toby from Facebook earlier on about this war for talent, if you like, this battle for talent in the digital domain. It certainly seems that the pendulum has really swung towards digital now, away from, the linear broadcasters in terms of power, in terms of the ability to interest and attract the next wave of talent.
Yeah, I guess you're right, but I don't think that linear is going to give up so easily.
We'll no doubt find if this pandemic is just going to speed up that process. I'm guessing it probably will, but I'm sure there's a few twists and turns along the way just yet.
Absolutely. By the way, I don't remember by heart now, but looking at the data during the COVID, there are actually some countries which obviously the digital was growing much faster, but actually in some other European territories, linear was growing faster than digital. So you never know.
Fantastic, Girts, as ever. Thank you very much. We're going to miss you next week. You've been an ever-present on the show, right from episode 1, and now I'm
record-breaking.
And I'm the only one left standing now from the original team. But
well, it would be kind of weird if not you.
Enjoy your trip.
Thank you.
Don't get quarantined. Have a great couple of weeks.
And you. Take care. Bye.
Well, that's about it for this week's show. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate and subscribe to the show and share it with friends and colleagues on social media. If you want to hear about our advertising and sponsorship packages, please email justin@boomdialogue.com. That's justin@boomdialogue.com. TellyCast was edited by Ian Chambers. Next week, we're looking at how the producers of some of the world's biggest soaps have restarted production in the pandemic. So, in the meantime, have a great week and stay safe.